Good afternoon. So to everyone who's in the room, thank you very much for choosing to spend your afternoon here with us. I'm Patricia Ogan-Faber, and I do a podcast show to help people, and it's called Maximising Property Values. It's on all the popular platforms, Apple, Spotify, Google, Audible, all the shebang. And you can actually get it by clicking on the link above. That, however, is mainly a monologue, which is just me talking about things to do with property, how people can learn about property and how they can make money from property. But I have now started a guest series, and my guest today is Malkit Purewal. Now, we are going to do as much of a deep dive as we can do into a person within 1 hour on Clubhouse. So, who is Malkit? Now, Malkit. Can everyone hear me? Because I seem to have a bad connection. Okay, Malkit has been enriching the property industry for over 20 years, and he has spent the last 10 years specialising in HMOs and developments. His passion is to add value to properties through planning and design while providing great deals that can benefit all parties involved. He takes abandoned buildings and transforms them with creativity, love, and passion into HMOs and homes that can be inhabited and enjoyed. Malkit is a former commodity analyst, but he wasn't happy with his role, so he decided to pursue his dreams and become a full-time property developer. His drive and love for what he does have allowed him to build a successful career, and he was awarded Commercial Property Developer of the Year at the Property Investor Awards 2020. A great accomplishment for him. He is the co-founder of Savoys Property, an award-winning company that focuses on providing boutique-style, all-inclusive, affordable homes. So I'm going to change the link now to one of Savoys. But Malkit, whilst I am doing that, can you please tell us what has been in the last 5 years the worst thing that happened to you and the best thing that happened to you, but it cannot have anything to do with property?
So in the last 5 years, in terms of the best thing that actually happened was I just had a baby girl coming up to 7 months ago. So that clearly tops that list. In terms of the worst thing was probably I was at work. I was a commodity trader, but then I was really passionate about property, and I was just unhappy. But I was successfully doing both. And that was probably sort of the low point. I just thought, okay, I have to just make this switch and just go full time. And being nearly 20 years in full time work, it was a big step, but it turned out to be a blessing in the end.
Sorry, Malkit. I was trying to add the Savoys group website link, but for some reason, Clubhouse doesn't like that link, so it wouldn't let me do it. Right. So, what happened to you? Your daughter 7 months ago. Is that your first daughter, your first child?
That's my second child. So I've got a son who's 7 years old, and now my daughter is obviously my second child. And that's it. We're done in that aspect.
Wow, wow. Do you know, with you guests, I like for people to hear about things that they wouldn't normally know about you, things that might not be on the internet, things that, are not being gossiped about within the property world. So thank you for sharing those two things with us. Now, with so let's now move on to property, because most of the people in here are going to be property people. At what age did you buy your first property?
That was 22. So I was 22 years old.
Wow. Wow, that's really good. I think I might have been 20. I can't remember how old I was, 23. So you definitely beat me there. And was it for you to live in, or was it for business purposes?
Um, well, it was as a buy to let. I tell you what the scenario of the situation. So, those who remember sort of the late 90s, you had a big .com boom, and I was actually studying a management studies degree, and literally everyone was just in some form of they were doing some sort of role within the technology industry. So I basically switched up in '99. I did a master's degree in computer science, and I thought, okay, look, this is probably the route that I need to be going because everything's going technology based. So I basically completed that in 2000 and joined a company which did pretty well up until that point. Those that remember sort of 2000, 2001, one, you had obviously 9/11, but then lastminute.com floated, and it got valued higher than like Unilever and all the rest of these companies. And it's literally just had a website and it was leasing an office. And then which led to basically a collapse within the .com market. So shares fell, and the market was in turmoil. And this company that I joined that had been pretty successful for 20 years prior to me arriving, started shedding jobs, and I just saw like grown men in their 40s crying as they've been made redundant. I'm like, "Well, okay, wow, I need to ensure that I don't end up down that route," and that led me towards purchasing my first property as a way of sort of financial freedom in the long run.
Wow, I do remember those days. And I tell you, I was actually nearly wiped out myself. I was minding my own business, practicing the law, buying my properties, which was doing very well. And then a friend of mine came to me and said, "Oh, Patricia, we need to get into the .com era." I knew nothing about, technology or .com or whatever. But yes, like you say, last minute hadn't actually floated when this person came to me. And it was all about Yahoo, and there was no Google at the time. And it was crazy. It was all about valuations based on eyeballs. That's what they used to call them then. So yes, I remember that very well. So you clearly then went into property as a means of becoming financially independent, so that you would not be in your 40s a man who's crying because he's lost his job, due to circumstances beyond his control. Amazing, 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 amazing. And since you were 22, you have come a long way. Now, it's a shame that I couldn't post a link to Savoy's property, but I think, hopefully, I'll be able to pin a link to Savoy's lending, which is your new, yes, that has been pinned, fine, which is the new thing that you guys are doing. Do you want to tell us about it? That is just so exciting. So we'll go into the HMOs in a minute, but this is the new thing that you guys are doing. So you are one half of Savoy's property. And you and Sanjay, you've introduced this year in 2021 Savoy's lending. So people in the room, if you want to know more about Savoy's lending, just tap on the link which will be above our heads, and that will take you to the website and you can find out more about it. But in the meantime, please, Malkit, tell us a bit more about Savoy's lending. What made you go down this road, and how is it going?
Okay, I think was it maybe 2 years ago. I think Shawbrook Bank got taken over by um, I think Pollen Street Capital. So and then a few directors of that bank actually left, and well, I think they got paid out and they left, and they set up a new company called Focused Lending. We're on, we dealt we worked with Shawbrook Bank for quite a while, and we built up a personal relationship with some of these individuals. We actually into we we basically set up a little top up company where we were just lending some money to that company, where it'll just maybe go on as a first charge or potentially a second charge. through this company. But what happened was when we went into lockdown last year, that new startup company lost its funding line. And as a result of losing its funding line, they decided, okay, look, it's too difficult. Literally everyone's looking for a funding line that's in that bridging market, that they were going to close. So they did end up closing. And so myself and Sanjay decided, okay, what should we do with this other company that we've got? And it worked well. It's successful. So we've just decided just to keep it. And we use that as a part of our overall business. So, for example, we have some customers that approach us, and they may not have the experience to actually achieve a loan, or there may be a certain aspect where they've got divorced and they've got a little issue with their credit history, but you can see overall they're okay. And we lend money there, and then potentially do the build as well, just to help individuals. And I see there's one person within the group that in the room now that we did a loan for, and we made a HMO for them, but they were unable to achieve any funding on the open market. So it's basically like a secondary line to our overall business, and it works well. It's profitable. As we're doing our projects, we're moving small sums into that, and then just we're hoping maybe 5 years down the line this will now become a lot bigger. But we're just in the current climate, just growing it step by step.
Wow. Well, definitely fingers crossed that it keeps growing from strength to strength. And that is an amazing, amazing, amazing service that you are offering to people. Because I remember, back in the day when I, first took out my mortgage, it was, you've got to be earning, so many multiple, or you can only get a mortgage for so many multiples of what you're earning. But you know who you are, and you know what you can afford and what not. And back in the day, like I'm saying, bank managers used to listen to you, and they'd look at your, bank accounts to see, what kind of lifestyle you were living. And everything was so personal then. But now it's all computers. And if you don't tick the boxes, it's an automatic rejection. So it's amazing what you guys are actually offering. Now, you also help people with HMOs, don't you? And apart from the funding side of things that you do, you've also kind of like you've got a collaboration going on with with Carl and CPC Finance, um, and through that, do you want to actually tell the room how you might be able to help them if they're a newbie, and they want to go into HMOs, how you can do it, and what the funding line that you might be able to bring their way actually looks like?
Sure. So basically, as well, we initially were doing projects only solely for ourselves. We had a friends approach us that wanted to do projects for friends or friends, so people that we knew, and we were turning their properties into HMOs. And then we saw that there's a little bit of a niche market here within the areas that we operate. We then started doing projects for clients that came to us that we didn't know, and then obviously the areas that we operate are sort of Uxbridge, West London, and sort of a half an hour radius from there. However, the issues locally is, like, typically a property will be maybe starting around 400,000 in the current market upwards. So to purchase that, you need 100,000, and to potentially do the build to convert that to 6 ensuite rooms with the potential extensions, you're looking 150,000. So that's £250,000, and not everyone actually has access to that type of money. But the project sort of makes sense. So, for example, if they're buying that house for 400 and they're spending 150 on it, so they're in at 550. The property at the end was getting valued around 700k, and the client will be able to pull most of their funding out. So we approached via CPC Finance. We approached Octane Capital. So they're a new lender. They've been around for 4 years. They've lent, within those 4 years, they lent £1 billion, and I think their target is to actually lend £1 billion a year. We've been working with them for several months, and they've they come and seen us, seen the projects, met some of the clients that we've done projects for. What they've agreed is to do 75% of a loan day one, and then to also value the property, so to also do 100% of the build. So in this scenario of 150,000 of the build cost, they'll actually cover those payments, and more importantly, they'll also offer a guaranteed exit onto a term product. So if the property was valued GDV at 675, 700, they'll basically come out and inspect, and once that's done, they'll allow them to easily move off from the bridging loan onto like a buy-to-let product. So it's quite unique in the way that obviously a developer such as ourselves has their own sort of product within a lender. And this year, since it's been launched, we've got probably, I think we launched this I think at the start of October, and we've got since then probably 7 deals that are going through on that product at the moment.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's where we are with it. I think there's details on our LinkedIn page and on Instagram. I believe the article was published in the HMO magazine. We made the front cover of that, so all the details of the offering are all documented within that magazine.
Great stuff. Malkit, can you just send me a link to that, please, on the back channel so I can pin it on? Or actually, why don't you pin it on the thing? Because you can do it as well. Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, I haven't been on Clubhouse for quite a while, so I'll have to.
Okay, just send me a link. Send me a link.
Okay, cool.
On the messaging thing, and I will do it.
Okay, definitely.
Right. So just to recap on that product, because normally people, if you want to buy and run an HMO, most lenders will require that you not be a newbie landlord, that you not be a newbie developer, that you actually have some experience. But through Savoys Group, you can actually, as a brand new landlord, or you want to become a landlord, you don't have any experience whatsoever, you can go to them, and once they've assessed you that you can actually, you've got the money, you've got the deposit, and you've got the wherewithal to actually do it, they will then add to you the things that you are lacking to allow this funding to go through. So they will lend you their experience, they will lend you, their team, their resources, and you will be able to get your HMO as a brand new landlord. That is an amazing service. I only really want people on this series who've got something to offer the industry in general, and just listen to what these guys are doing. It is amazing, absolutely amazing. And Malkit, you guys also last year won a property industry investors award, and I should know what it's actually called: Property Investors Award for commercial developer. And you bought a property and you converted it, didn't you, into HMOs? Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so this one was it was an office in Burnham, Buckinghamshire. We purchased it for 670,000. I think the build cost was 500,000, so 50k a unit. Once developed, it was valued at 2.25 million, and it ended up winning the commercial property deal developer of the year awards at the Property Investor Awards. And this year we're in the awards again this year. The awards are today, and we're finalists now in 6 categories. So it'll be quite an interesting evening.
Wow, definitely. Good luck. Because last year we were joint finalists, weren't we, for HMOs 6 and under?
Yeah, that's right.
And And that was where my journey ended. And, these guys won in a different category. So, well done to you and good luck for later on today. Oh, to those things, wow. They grill you. They absolutely grill you. So to have won is it's an amazing achievement. So well
Yeah,
done.
thank you.
So when we are looking at HMOs, can you just share with us what you look for when you go look for the property, what you then plan to do, with the property, and how do you know how much you're going to be earning from it before you actually make an offer on the property in question? Is that something that you can share with?
Yeah, sure. Well, for us, because we've been, I think, since 2010, we've been focusing on HMOs. So for us now, it's sort of second nature. Um, Typically, if we're looking at a property, we're looking to see whether we can get 6 rooms within the property. And the reason we focus on 6 is house prices in the areas that we operate are quite high. So for it to be financially viable, you typically need 6 rooms and a communal kitchen, and that's the initial point. So when we look at something, okay, if I extend to the rear side loft, am I able to get the 6? If we're not, then we typically don't really proceed with that. And the reason is, if you get 6 rooms, then you get it when you come to get it valued up. The valuer will calculate the total revenue minus some expenditure for running the property, and they'll work out a commercial valuation based on that. That basically allows either ourselves or clients to pull out majority of their funds and allow them to go again to purchase another property. So that's basically the key characteristic. And then we work with what we start to do is we've worked quite closely with an interior design company, just then to just focus on the flow of the house, just to make it appealing, just to ensure it stands out from the crowd. And once it's let, the tenants will typically stay as long as possible. They won't really look at moving to another HMO.
Great stuff. So you say 6 rooms. Once you've got 6 rooms, you can then get commercial lending. In your experience, is that 6 rooms where there's an Article 4, or 6 rooms where there isn't an Article 4? I simply ask that question because, not with me, it's sort of like it's usually where there's an Article 4, but you are in an Article 4 area, aren't you? So I just thought, let's highlight that for people in the room who might not be into HMOs, so they might not even know.
Okay, yeah. So Article 4 basically just means the council designates an area and says, look, it's not permitted development to convert that to a HMO. So you have to go down a formal planning route. The only problem with that is the formal planning route, you're going to need 50% of, you need 1 car parking space per 2 people. So it's a lot of the time it's probably not going to work. You have to have so much amenity space, etc. So we typically only buy an existing HMO in an Article 4 area and then revamp that. Or majority of the time, what we do is we focus on the neighbouring areas that are non-Article 4 and purchase and develop there, because then we don't have the restrictions and you don't have the time limits of putting in a 3-month planning application. So yeah, I only really focus on non-Article 4 areas.
And people in the room, there's also something else that you don't know about Malkit, and that is that he also does a bit of the law. Because in 2015, he dealt with an appeal where he'd made an application to planning for a lawful development certificate, and the planning authorities turned him down, and he appealed to the inspectorate and he won. So, Malkit, I am talking about 47 Fairfield Road, West Drayton. Do you want to tell us what your experience was with that particular?
Yeah, well, this one was there's obviously little grey areas on whether it's a HMO or not. And typically at that point, I think back in 2015, the mortgage companies that I was working with, because Article 4s had come out, I thought the easiest thing to do was just get a stiff call lawful development, just to say, look, what we've done is just lawful. Then it just makes the refinancing process easy. In that particular instance, the planning officer didn't contact us, just turned up to the outside of the property. I saw an intercom system, but we put an intercom system in just to avoid other tenants getting disturbed by someone ordering pizza 8 o'clock in the evening, and 6 people rush to the door to see who it is. So we just thought it'd be simpler just to spend a few £100s and have a place where whoever's at the door can just buzzer the correct room. This planning officer turned up, saw it as an intercom, and then failed the application, saying, "Well, there's an intercom there. It's likely to be 6 self-contained flats, so we're going to fail this." Which didn't really help us, because as at the time we were refinancing it, and we had to wait till the appeal was settled to actually refinance the property and pull our funds back out. But since then, we've I just try to stay on top of all the planning rules and regulations, just to ensure when dealing with either planning or planning enforcement that we have all the relevant case laws and so on. The main reason for it is a lot of the planning enforcement officers don't really understand the planning rules themselves that they're trying to apply. So I'm typically having to sort of correct them by reverting them to, pointing them in the right direction of case laws and the Town and Planning Act.
Do you know, you are so right about, the planning officers, quite a number of them not even understanding the laws that they are, trying to enforce, or trying to use. They just don't, and it's such a shame. And reading, your appeal decision, it just made me chuckle. And I like, the fact that, you've been able to push the boundaries. And, guys, honestly, go on to Instagram for Savoys Group, and have a look at the stuff that they do. It's really, really good, and I can see why, people would want to pay, good rent to actually stay in your properties, because it's all about us, running our businesses as, as well as we can. And, sorry to kind of like use this pun, but it's all about maximizing property values, because otherwise, why are we doing what we're doing? So, guys, Malkit and Sanjay, hats off to you guys. That is just really, really, really good. Um, it's looking at that decision, actually, it was also really, really funny that it wasn't just the HMO side of things that the local authority was, looking to challenge. It was also the extensions that you'd done a rear extension, and you'd done a side extension, I think, and they were saying that those weren't on the PD either. Um, so I think it seems as if you actually had your hands full just dealing with that.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. The big issue with planning officers is they're not really paid that well. So what happens is, as they gain knowledge and start to understand the system, they would rather go and become a planning consultant on their own, and they'll probably triple or quadruple their salary. So typically what you tend to have is individuals maybe just come straight out of university, or where it'll probably be like their second role, and then they're thrown in, and they've got so many cases to sort of go through, because local councils don't invest in in their staff and the staffing numbers, and the areas that I operate within, the local council has decided to outsource uh, majority of the planning decisions to a third party company that is based in Birmingham, and those guys make the decisions on applications based 120 miles away. So it's a bit absurd, but it's one of the reasons why I try to focus more on permit development, prior approval, rather than full planning. Uh, yeah, it just added delays, to be honest.
Wow. Do you know that, you know, you talking about people working for local authorities and then becoming planning consultants, it just reminded me of something. So a lady was talking to me about what she was planning to do, and she was planning to, in an Article 4 area, convert a C3 in, so convert a home into an HMO. And I said, oh, you know, I think that's an Article 4 area. She goes, oh, yes, it is. I said, well, you need planning. She goes, oh, my planning consultant said to me, oh, do it, because if the local authority don't come to you within 4 years, then you're absolutely fine. And I said, well, actually, that's wrong on so many levels, because one, you know, you're breaking the law. Two, it's not 4 years for a conversion to an HMO, it's 10 years. And apart from that, I don't know if you're aware of this, Malkit, but the local authorities now, what they're doing is, if you breach planning laws and you are making money, so people like us, you know, developers and landlords, and you know, other people like that, and you're making money from it, and they serve an enforcement notice on you, and you don't stop, what they do apparently is they then just leave you be. So they let you dig your own grave, and then after so many years, they come back and they slap you with a proceeds of crime confiscation order.
Yep.
So that just, yeah. So, you know, people, we need to be very, very careful. And if we're taking advice from people, please just make sure that you're getting advice from the right sort of person, not like this planning consultant who was advising this lady to do something that could cost her plenty going forward. So, you know, be very, very careful. Yeah. So just you say, you talking about, you know, people leaving that to become planning consultants just reminded me of this person, because that's what they did. They used to actually work for the local authority, and then they became a consultant, but obviously not a very good one, because they're advising people incorrectly, unlawfully and incorrectly.
Well, I saw in the Property Investor News magazine this month, I think there's two individuals that have been taken to court under the Proceeds of Crime Act, and I think one was £190,000 fine, and then the other one was £250,000 fine. I think with the whole issue with this was this Proceeds of Crime Act was brought in place to go after money launderers and drug dealers and so on. But I think one council used it against a particular landlord who didn't challenge it, didn't probably turn up to court, and as a result, it's sort of set a precedent. And now, as you're right, local authorities just allow, they sit back for 2-3 years, allow you to rent it out and so on, and they know exactly what's going on. But when they come for you, then they literally claim every single penny of rent that you've earned, and then they charge you with interest as well. So maybe think it's something like 8%, and literally, yeah, it's enough to bankrupt an individual.
I know, it's really, really bad, because yeah, like you say, Proceeds of Crime Act, that was really when, you know, when the legislation was passed, it was for you know, the drug dealers and, you know, people like that. But now they're using it for anything. If you break the law and you make money from breaking the law, boom, that's it. They sit back, they wait, and then they claim it. And the thing is, this is just the tip of the iceberg as far as I can see it, because most local authorities are broke. They need money, and they can see that they can maybe get money through doing this, because even if you can't pay, the asset is still there. So they can just take your asset and sell it, you know, in an auction for something and get their money. So we do need to be careful. And the other thing that I was going to say, you know, you spoke about precedents and bad precedents, um, is the individual banding for HMOs when we talk about council tax. Now, you know, and you and I, Malkit, I think we've had a number of discussions on this, and I think we're on different sides of the table, where I say they can do it as long as you've adapted the premises for the purposes of allowing one person to live there in a way where they don't have to interact with other people. and I think there's a consultant somewhere who says, well, actually, as long as it's not completely self-contained, so having a bathroom and a kitchen and the living areas, then they're not allowed to do it. I think it's due to bad law, which I think started in the 60s, but that's another area where they're looking to clubber us. So if people don't know what I'm talking about, so normally for council tax purposes, you have different bandings. You have band A, which is the lowest banding in the local authority. You have B, C, D, E, and it goes up like that. So normally you only have to pay council tax for self-contained premises like houses and flats and things like that. But they are now looking to charge each HMO room with band A council tax if you have taken the house and you've adapted it for the purposes of letting it, as an HMO. So that again is perhaps another thing that is in our future. I haven't been hit yet, but I've done my research. I'm ready for it. I think it's inevitable. They are going to come after us because they need the money. But Malkit, share with us what you think on this.
So yeah, you're right. So I think it sort of dates back to when David Cameron came into power. I think local authorities were saying we need funding, and literally just said, well, just use whatever means that you have. So one of those was, well, technically, if you extend your own family house and you're a band C, and if all of a sudden you double the size of it, they can come and reband that as a band E, F. So literally, they're trying to do, and they are doing that with HMO rooms. And the reason for it is they consider it as a separate hereditament, and I don't think there's anyone that's been really successful at overturning these at appeal. I'm monitoring a few Facebook groups on the subject, but I think it's something that's coming to all HMOs eventually. Then it'll just be a level playing field with that. And what a lot of landlords are doing is just working out, how worse off they can actually be with it, and whether the model works. With us, for example, if it's a 6-bed HMO, typically the original council tax will be somewhere between £1,500 to £2,000. In this case, they'll reband this as 6 rooms. It'll be maybe as a studio rate, which is basically £1,000 per room, minus the 25% single person discount. It works out at £4,500, and the way we justify it is, okay, look, so if it was originally £2,000, now it's gone to 4,500. Does that £2,500 break your HMO model? And when we've done myself and Sanjay have done our calculations across the whole board, if it does hit, okay, yeah, it does have an impact on your profits, but overall, it's £2,500 per property over the course of 12 months, and it's still our HMOs are still quite profitable, and there's no major impact. And as councils will move this forward, because they've got a list of every HMO that's licensed, and even my local council are inspecting our HMOs, and luckily with those ones they haven't done this, whereas I know neighbouring councils such as Royal Borough, Windsor, and Slough, they just have a look at, okay, how's it described on the application. They don't even turn up to inspect the house, and they just send individual bills out. But it's I think it's something that's looking inevitable unless someone wins a few appeals and we've got some case law to argue it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, but I don't think that anyone's actually going to be winning any appeals on this because, like I said earlier, the legislation actually goes back to I think it was 1963 or 1964. It was sometime in the 60s, anyway, where it was actually decided in court that for it to be that thing, it didn't have to be completely self-contained. It just needed to be something where somebody could live without interaction with anybody else. And what they say with the HMOs is that even though there's a shared kitchen, people don't, not many people cook. So you can still live, by yourself without using a shared kitchen, because you might be, a takeaway person. You might, be that. So it's really, really strange. It's at the moment in Croydon, which is where my HMOs are. I think some of them are taking the view that if you don't have a kitchen in your room, you're okay, which is not quite what the law says, but I'm not going to argue because I don't have kitchens in my rooms. But, like you say, it's something that's going to, kind of like, affect all of us at some point or other. And I really just hope they get on with it and just level out, what is out there, the playing field, because it's not fair for some to be bearing it and others to get away with it. And I know that at the moment I'm not paying it, but it's still not really great because you don't know what's coming, around the corner. And actually, just on this point, what I've done, as soon as I became aware of this, and my ASTs for years now have a clause in there that says, the landlord will be responsible for the council tax as long as a single bill is billed to the landlord for the house. However, if something along the lines of, I can't remember the wording because it's been there for years now. I can't remember what I actually wrote down, but it's along the lines of, if you're billed individually, then the individual tenant is actually responsible for it. And the reason why I've done that is for council tax purposes as well. If you, the landlord, are responsible for the council tax, then the tenant cannot claim the 25% single person's allowance to reduce that bill by 25%. So you would have to pay 100%. But if the bill is in the tenant's name, or it is their legal liability, then they're entitled to claim back, 25%. And that again just really helps you a little bit, just like Sanjay was saying. Rather than £6,000, he's only got to pay £4.5, roughly, £1,000 for that property. So it's another thing that we, HMOs, it's, not for the faint-hearted, to be honest. We can make loads of money from them. And, and I keep talking about my one room that is, that I rent out for £1,000 a month. In Norbury, it actually went on the market for £1,100, and I accepted an offer for £1,000 a whole year, a whole year's rent paid up front. And that is really, really good. But it is a great room. It's a lovely room. And, if it wasn't worth it, my tenant wouldn't still be there. And she's been there coming up for 2 years since the conversion was actually done. So, these things can bring a lot of money in, but we need to just be aware of some of the pitfalls. So, Malkit, what other pitfalls do you find in your business, particularly with HMOs?
Well, the pitfalls is, well, once the easy bit is actually getting the property up and running. So building HMO, I find, is the easier aspect. Is the management of it, which is the difficult aspect. And I've used several agents over the years, and none of them have done what I actually wanted to do. So as a result, so the whole Savoys Properties only came about 1st of April last year. So we actually ended up in lockdown. I was fed up with our letting agents, and myself and Sanjay said, well, we've got nothing but time now, we're in lockdown, so why don't we just bring it all in? So we renamed ourselves to Savoys Properties, and we basically 1st of April we decided all the rents that our letting agents were taking, we brought them all in house, and then we built a system from scratch that was focused around our tenants, because if you don't have happy tenants, you don't really get paid. You get people that are handing in notices, and your turnover's higher, so it can be an absolute nightmare. So we built that up from scratch, and since then we've taken several people on that now look after the letting side of the business, allowing myself and Sanjay just to focus on the development side. But in terms of some of the pitfalls, is basically One is tenant management, not seeing to your tenants' needs. If there's issues within the room or in the house, if you don't address them, one, you'll lose your tenants. Two, those, if there's a slow leak and you haven't adjusted it, a month down the line, the ceiling may just fall in. So that is actually quite important. Having regular inspections of your HMOs, you'll probably notice something that hasn't been reported to you that will save you some trouble later down the line. In terms of HMOs, you have a lot of refuge, which, if it's not managed in the right way, you can end up with attracting vermin to properties. And we've had some where that's the refuge hasn't been managed correctly, and you've ended up with rats within the property, and they're a nightmare to get rid of. So these are things that we've now adjusted our business to allow it to, so we can minimize the impact of these causes. You've also got, with HMOs, it's effectively like a hotel where you've got a high turnover of people. So you may potentially, on a room, you may change that tenancy twice within a year, because you tend to have a 6-month break clause. So you want to ensure, the property is hard wearing, so it doesn't age too quickly. And then if you have a look at our photos on our Instagram, you'll see basically some tricks which we employ just to make it a lot more durable. And then, the other pitfalls are, there's a lot of regulations now involved with HMOs. You need quite a lot of certificates that need to be done. So obviously you've got your gas cert, you got your 5-year condition report for your electrics, you've got your emergency lighting, you've got your fire alarm, obviously the EPCs. And as you build your portfolio, it can become difficult to stay on top of it. So you need to have the right. So we have like a customer relationship management software in place that helps automate a lot of this and simplifies the whole process. And obviously you've got things like deposits. If you don't register your deposit within, I believe it's like 28 days, your tenant can actually come after you for the deposit, and then I believe they can claim 4 times as much back from you. So it can be costly if you're not aware of all the rules and regulations.
It's because apparently, the tenants can come after you for up to 3 times the deposit amount. And I think there are people out there now kind of like selling that service. Was your deposit registered properly? And also, I can't help but just add, as we're talking about deposits, it's not just about putting the deposit into one of the government deposit schemes. You have to also serve the prescribed information. So it's a 2-step process to actually get them to not be able to come after you for the deposit. Oh my goodness!
Yeah, no, you're right. You're
Honestly,
right. It's not
it's
easy.
it's not easy, is it? It's not easy. So the rewards are there, the money is there, but also you need to be, aware of, just like you're saying, Sanjay, people just need to be aware of what, their obligations are. Otherwise, they're going to find themselves being fined and then out of pocket, which is not what anyone wants. We do not want that. We do not want that. So absolutely amazing. Oh, Malkit, did I say Sanjay?
Yeah, it's okay. It gets a bit confusing because I was just looking at my icon photo. Obviously, I've got Sanjay, then myself. So,
I am
but it's
so
fine.
sorry.
Don't worry.
At least I picked myself up. Do you know what? There are times when I say things and then it will be maybe like 24 hours later and I'll be thinking, did I actually say that? I know that's not what I should have said, but that's what I said. Anyway, sorry about that. So thank you, Malkit, for coming over here. Now, people in the room, if you've got any questions that you'd like to ask Malkit, this is your opportunity. If you've been in the room from the beginning, you would have heard him say he doesn't come onto Clubhouse that much anymore. So if you've got any questions, come up here right now and ask them of him. So he's into HMOs, into developments, into lending. I might be able to get you some lending if you're looking to start up an HMO and you don't have any experience. This is the person that you need to talk to. And if you're not following him, follow him. Tap on his face, follow his, scroll down his bio to his Instagram page, and then click on that and go follow him on that, because that is where you will get most of the information about what Malkit and Sanjay are doing in Savoys Properties, in Savoys Group, and that is where you get your info, because knowledge is key. Knowledge is success. That is what we want. So, anyone got any questions? No, it doesn't look like we have. So I have one last question actually. And I hope you don't mind telling us about it. I actually want to know how you felt as an individual when you got the information. So um, we spoke earlier about this commercial development that you did, that you bought for I think it was 670,000, and it was down valued by nearly £200,000. Oh, it hurt when I read that, when I read about that. But now it's you've finished the works, you spent about 500,000 on there, and you've now got something that's worth in excess of £2 million. So obviously it's a good story. But when you got that valuation report that said it was only worth, I think, 470 or whatever, how did you feel? Or how did you cope with it? Did you sleep that night? Tell us.
Yeah, no, I did sleep that night. But one thing is, because we've been in property a little while, so I try not to. I keep with stuff within property. We try to keep it logical. So obviously, I was in IT as well. So for me, it's just logic, and I try to remove emotion from property. I saw basically the value undervalued it 200,000. Obviously, we weren't happy about it. We had a moan to our broker, and the broker will say, look, put in an appeal, you do the appeal and nothing happens. But at the end of it, myself and Sanjay knew what the end goal was. So we understood there was a few tricks that we could employ to increase the number of flats within the building. So I think most people, when they looked at it, thought we only can get 5 flats in there. But we managed to get 10. I think it was 2 2-bedroom, 5 1-bedroom, and 3 studio flats within the building. And so we knew what the end goal was, and we knew it was going to be profitable. So we just had to find the balance of the funds, and just proceed and just go ahead and do those works. And inevitably, it was a nice feeling when we actually got it valued up once complete. And then also it was quite nice. A few magazines picked up on that development. I think Your Property Network, Property Investor News, both covered it, and obviously we won the Commercial Developer of the Year award as well at the Property Investor Awards. So there was a silver lining to it. But I think when you go into property, you've got to sort of distract from the emotional side, and you have to look at it as a business, and it is only a business. So even when you're managing a property, you get a leak at your property or something happens, try not to look at it emotionally, just work it out as a business. Okay, look, that's fine. There's an impact to a little bit of your revenue this month, but just get it fixed, because that's your role, and that's your responsibility as a responsible landlord as well.
Wow. Do you know, it's one of the reasons why I would not have been able to sleep for a whole week, I tell you. Because that would have literally just thrown all of my figures out of the window. £200,000,
But
nearly a third.
we were like that. It just had to train your mind. You have to basically train your mindset to, when you start off in property, you're I think when you're looking at Instagram, and back when we were, there wasn't really there's no Instagram. I think Facebook wasn't really around either. And so you're just hearing word of mouth, this person's doing this person's doing this. And now with the rise of social media and everyone's selling the dream, if you go ahead and try to do something for the first time, and knockback on that, it can be very disheartening. But yeah, you learn that this is all part and parcel of the industry, and it's the same valuer that downvalued it initially, and they came back and gave a great valuation at the end. So it's quite bizarre, to say the least.
Oh my goodness.
With one
I
thing
hope he was embarrassed.
with surveyors and valuers, I think embarrassment is the least thing they worry about.
I completely agree with you. Do you know, thank you so much, Malkit, for coming on today and talking to us about, what you do. Absolutely amazing. Now, if people want to know where they can listen to this, it will be on Clubhouse. So if you are following either myself or Malkit, you will be able to find it on our profiles. It will also be under the club, Maximising Property Pound Pound Pound, because it didn't allow me to put Maximising Property Values, so that was the best I could do. And it will also be on the podcast platforms. So if you tap on the link which is above, you will be able to find it on Apple, Spotify, Audible, or wherever, as a bonus scene. So, people, it will be here and it will be on the podcast platforms as well. But on that note, I really, really, really would like to say, Malkit, thank you so much for doing this with me. And again, I say to people, if you're not already following Malkit, do so now. Do so, particularly on Instagram, and learn from him. And I tell you what, Malkit is so generous with his knowledge, and he shares with people, and he is just somebody that, if you want to learn, he will teach you, and he won't mind, sharing information with you. So on that note, I really want to say thank you very, very much, Malkit, for coming here and being my guest. And it has been my pleasure to get to know you a bit better. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, for sharing. I just wanted to add, it was actually nice to finally meet as well at the Excel Investor Show last month.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, the guys were there, and I thought, I'm going to be there. I haven't met them. We've exchanged a number of emails and texts and things, and I thought I am going to meet them. And I went there, and it was lovely to meet you. Yeah, thank you very much. Nice to put, like, a human face, not a photograph, but a human face to, your view of, who that person is. So yeah, great stuff.
Yeah, fab.
And people in the room, again, next week on Wednesday at 12 noon, I shall be back here with, next week, Stephanie Taylor, the queen of Rent to Rent. So if you want to find out about Stephanie and Rent to Rent, this is the place to be on Wednesday at 12 noon. So that will be Wednesday, the 1st of December, and I shall be here. But in the meantime, have a great day, and thank you for spending your afternoon with us.
And please, if you honestly enjoy these, please do rate, please review the show, because that will just help me know if you're actually enjoying what is being done, and it will also help other people find it. So if you found it useful, help other people find it as well. But thank you. Enjoy.